Yo, what's up, y'all? This is the Good Times of Killing Us podcast. I'm your boy David, and as always, I am joined by K-Town.
K-Town, the BK King.
And Marquis.
Yo, what up, y'all?
And today we once again have a very special guest, Mr. James Brown.
Friend of the show.
I'm here to reiterate the Venn diagram between Pantera and Burger King.
He's no longer a friend of it. He's not a friend of everybody.
We've had some heated conversation before this episode.
Yeah, we started off on today's topic, our boy Kanye West.
I'm not even excited for this anymore.
Well, and it turned into a big heated conversation about Burger King, chicken fries, and a bunch of other shit, and we gotta get back. So let's get back on, guys. Today we're talking about Kanye West, who is, after our last episode about Takashi Miike, we're thinking, okay, let's do something a little bit less fucking weird and obscure that pretty much everybody knows. So if you're out there and you don't know who Kanye West is, how about we start rattling off what our experiences were as members of, I don't know, American culture, the world culture, not living under a rock. What was y'all's experience when you first discovered Kanye West? What did it mean to you when he first kind of came out?
Gonna kick it off with me, man. Well, shit, dude. Kanye, man, dude.
Preach.
Been a big. I had always been a big fan, dude. Like, I wasn't on Kanye in the beginning, from the jump. I mean, I remember my older brother showing me Jesus Walks and like College Dropout and shit, and he put him on my radar and shit. And I remember like College Dropout and Late Registration. Those were big albums, great songs. It was really cool for there to be a lane of rap that wasn't like some gangster rap type stuff. And then I got into him a little more later on, and then, like, by graduation, I was fully on board, and, like, I literally was on the Kanye wave, dude, heavy after graduation, 808s, big fan, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, huge fan, Yeezus, huge fan, St. Pablo, and, like, and it was, like, I'd never had an artist that just, like, was constantly dropping hits, and then, like, we got into, like, more recent shit, and
We'll get there. We're gonna build it all up. So, what about y'all?
I'll go next. I fell in love with Kanye. I started hearing him through the College Dropout. He released some songs, and I was like, okay, this song is good. Started liking him more and more. Slow build up until graduation, and around this time we had a couple different rappers that came out that weren't your stereotypical like hard like thug rapper, which I identified with a little bit more. I loved your hard rappers. I grew up listening to some crazy stuff like. So one of the hottest rappers around the early 2000s around that time was probably DMX. And, I loved listening to stuff like that, but I didn't identify it. But I identified with Kanye because it felt like I saw something in him that I saw in myself, and there was a bunch of different rappers around that time who were like that, but he was kind of leading the charge. Graduation was when I fully fell in love with him because it was kind of at the height of him versus 50 Cent and a battle for Billboard. They both put out albums at the same time. He had the #1 album in the country over 50 Cent. So that just went to show that you don't have to be some hard dude to be the top guy to be respected as a black man. So it was a really cool thing to look at, and he was a superhero in my eyes, and
for sure, dude, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so like when I was 14, when I first heard Kanye, it was through the wire. I was 14, freshman year in high school. I didn't really have like a musical sense yet. I was still getting really molded by everything.
Musical sense.
Yeah. I mean, musical sense like of what I was like into and stuff. So I just remember I used to get dropped off at my grandmother's in the morning to get taken to school, and I remember sitting there with my croissant twitch, eating it and enjoying. And I heard Through the Wire for the first time, and it just really clicked with me, and I just really dug it, and I just have been a fan ever since.
Yeah, that's really important to talk about. I was in high school at the same time when I started getting really into Kanye West. I think it was either just after late registration or graduation. And if you were in high school during that time period, I'd imagine probably even after high school, fucking middle school, everywhere you went, you heard Kanye West and Lil Wayne. Everywhere you went. They just ran every single party you went to, everything. They were always there. So as someone who was not really super into rap, Kanye West still kind of came on.
Oh yeah,
it was
he would bleed through. Yeah, like even if you weren't even tapped into like pop culture, because even like we're talking like the early 2000s, like 2005, 2006 and shit. Even if you weren't into pop culture, like he bled through. And, like, you would hear songs. You would hear Kanye songs, You would hear Lil Wayne songs. They were around. Like, they were on the charts.
And to this day, Kanye is still, like, a staple of our society. He's lasted, never really got old. I mean, we'll talk about a little bit of his more recent stuff and kind of think about where he's going. It's getting a little bit weird right now. But nonetheless, I mean, he's part of the cultural zeitgeist. Like, really, in the 21st century, as far as music goes, he's a major staple of the overall cultural zeitgeist. So we've kind of talked about our own experiences, but let's get into a deep dive of the man, the myth, and the legend, Kanye West. So Kanye West was born on June 8, 1977 in Atlanta, Georgia, but then moved on to Chicago, and his father was a former Black Panther, and his mother was an English professor, which I think is interesting because both of those elements kind of molded a part of who he really is.
Yeah, for sure.
But interestingly enough, when he was 10 years old, him and his mother moved to China. So I forgot to mention this, but his mother and his father split up very young. Experience I'm sure many people can relate to. But regardless, that's a big thing. Is that he moved to China for a job opportunity. He didn't come from like the typical gangster rapper roots. He was a middle class guy with an educated parental unit or kind of background.
Yeah, well cultured, dude. Dude lived in China when he was a kid. Like, what a way to be like ripped out of your societal norm and your normal culture and thrown into another kind of culture, especially at that age. Like, it'll change the way you look at things and think. Definitely.
I think that definitely molded like his ability to kind of co-opt into other cultures later on. I mean, eventually Europe, his whole fashion thing, in Paris and all that. He was like, unlike a lot of those other people he might have been growing up with, or really any of us who just kind of grew up in the United States in a kind of hegemonic community.
Well, that's why I said that too, is because when I was 13, I lived in Naples for like 3 years.
So you have a relatable experience.
Yeah. So like, I mean, he was much younger, so I can imagine, but that was definitely a culture shock for me. Like from 13 to 16, I lived in Naples, Italy. And it definitely changed the way I thought. Like when I came back, everything was completely different. I mean, obviously, at that age, it's a little took it for granted, and it was like, why isn't this like America when you get there?
Yeah,
but
where's all the Burger King?
Yeah, we're all.
We're not gonna do this.
all right, that's the last Burger King joke.
but yeah, no, for real though. So yeah, definitely, I can imagine what that was like.
Mm-hmm. And in interviews, he talks about how like it was kind of like a jolt to his system being here and then going somewhere else and realizing, oh, people think differently. So early on, he's exposed to the whole convention of thinking outside of the box, realizing that there are other perspectives out in the world. But as he grew up, he started gaining more success with producing. And for the longest time, he was just known as a producer. As a matter of fact, he made beats for rappers such as Jay-Z and other contemporary rappers at the time.
He was a great producer. He was a really good producer and got really well known for it.
Yeah, and at the time he was making beats for Jay-Z. Jay-Z was the guy. He was the hottest guy in rap. So
for sure,
Rockefeller
can't get any bigger than making beats for the hottest guy in the rap.
And he's shouting you out in his songs and stuff
during his hottest run.
Yeah, so it was a big thing for Kanye to be producing at that time.
But nonetheless, while he was producing, when he started kind of talking to them, I guess around the late 90s, he's like, yo, like, I can rap too.
I want to rap, y'all.
Yeah, but there was kind of this stereotype about people, what were they called, producer rappers?
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, like you'd have a producer who would do your song. If you need someone to fill in time, you might have the producer rapper come in, but they're not known for being good rappers.
No, it's not their trade. It's not. It wasn't, especially at that time. It wasn't as common to like jump that gap,
Mm-hmm. And I think this is really important to understanding Kanye's whole psychology in general. Is early on, even when he's getting success, people are like, oh, you have an interest in this? No, Kanye, you crazy. You can't do that.
You can't do that, Kanye.
There's no way.
Stay in your lane.
Exactly.
Stay in your lane, Kanye.
Very early on, he's being told, stay in your lane. Like, you're not, for one, you're already this kind of middle-class kid in a gangster rap world. You're trying to rap where you're just a producer.
We're already letting you do this, Kanye.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you should appreciate what you already have.
He was at a weird time. Like at that time, like everything was like hardcore gangster. He had like 50 Cent, who literally his whole like claim to fame was that he got shot and like he could rap. And yeah, like DMX, like James Brown said earlier, like these were like the titans in the industry. Jay-Z was a crack dealer. Like it was hard ass dudes fucking rapping about hard ass shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Kanye was not a part of. I mean, I'm sure he had some.
He probably
knew that world somewhat, but he wasn't coming straight from that world that they came from.
I mean, he was a college kid, and as a matter of fact, he was in fact a college dropout, and it was in 1999, where he first started working on his debut record, The College Dropout. So he started that record 5 years before it came out. He spent the next 4 years just working on it. And I think what that is where it's kind of like, oh, y'all don't think I can do it? Y'all don't think I can do it? And he just keeps reworking, make sure that he's going to put out this perfect, amazing record.
Mm-hmm. 3 beats a day for 5 summers or something like that.
Yeah. Imagine all the cuts he had to do to that record, all the how it must have shape shifted so many times. But his first single, or his first, I guess, music video single was called Through the Wire, which he recorded with his jaw wired shut after a car accident.
That shit was hard, man.
So again, in this kind of gangster rap world, you have this guy who records a song where he's literally kind of like handicapped. Which you think that's kind of interesting. But he released the first music video Through the Wire.
It was if nothing else a really unique gimmick at that time to literally be rapping over that Shaka Khan song with the sample, and then where she's singing Through the Wire, and then be singing with his jaw wired shut,
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, just already just off the bat, so many weird peculiarities. Like, for example, the single Jesus Walks had 3 different versions.
Mm-hmm.
And an interesting theme on that record is he talks about, he's criticizing how, like, it's become taboo to talk openly about, like, God and faith and Christian faith and everything like that. So, again, early on, he's constantly trying to go against the grain, even though, like, like you could say, he could consider himself lucky for having the success that he had. He was like, no, I want more and more and more.
Why can't I do this? Mm-hmm. Why can't I talk about this? He's constantly triggered by things people tell him he can't do. He can't do.
Absolutely, and that's something we're to come at a few times, and I think that's kind of one of the biggest kind of anxieties throughout his entire life. But we kind of want to mention one thing that kind of ties into that. Mark, you put me onto that the Punked episode where they got Kanye West. Well, he was shooting the second out of 3 versions of Jesus Walks.
Yeah, I didn't even realize how intense it was. So they had this fake camera crew come in. They told the camera crew, Ashton told them to check out the scene and tell them that they were shooting on a Sunday too. So the gimmick was that they were going to tell them like, oh well, you guys don't have a Sunday permit. It's a special permit for Sunday, and you can't shoot. And I was like,
do you think it was intentional that they wanted that music video on a Sunday?
It's Kanye West.
Yeah, Kanye's one of those artists that doesn't do like anything on accident. Like everything is very meticulously planned out. So. Yeah, but so like that was the gag was that they were going to shut him down, but so when they first start coming to Kanye, they're coming to him personally. He's really like trying to ignore the dude, and like he's like, "Why are you even talking to me?" He's like, "We can go shoot in my trailer." He's like, "I don't even know." He's like completely not acknowledging.
He's like dancing in front of him. He's like,
he's like, "I can shoot here. You can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to do."
He's like, "Knock it off! Quit fooling around. I'm sure you got a permit to fool around, but you don't got a film permit."
So the guy's like acting like he's trying to be nice.
Permit to be an asshole.
So then he decides to shut the whole thing down, and he tells the guys he's going to need the film and the camera film. Into which Kanye starts to can they? He starts asking this guy, "Can they really do this? Can they shut it down?" They're like, "Yeah, Kanye, they can." So he starts to get really like active in the whole situation. They have one of the guys grab the camera films off the like buggy or whatever, and Kanye,
one of these supposed film commission people, who sees it.
Yeah. He literally grabs the film in his hand, and Kanye literally has one of his boys or his bodyguards or whoever get physical and like check this guy while Kanye grabs the film out of his hand, runs to a van, and tells him to take off. He literally tries to leave with the film, like, you guys can't take my film.
He kept saying the whole time, I pay for this shit.
Yeah, I pay, you guys cannot take this. And Ashton Kutcher literally had to run out himself to be like, hey,
Ashton! Ashton! I was like, you just know Ashton Kutcher right off the jump? But just right that, what's interesting about this whole thing is, we're living in 2019. We're kind of living in knowing some of the more recent Kanye West controversies, which we talked about.
With the hindsight.
But doing the research on this and kind of starting back from the top, I fell in love with Kanye West all over again. Watching that video, I was just like, he was like, y'all ain't gonna stop Kanye.
He was always Kanye. He was always
He was
Kanye.
a hungry kid.
You know?
Absolutely hungry in a whole other way, like artistically hungry. He was so ambitious. And just one other thing that's mentioned about that record is there's a song called "The New Workout Plan," where basically the music video is all these different women who are going on this big obstacle course, and the final step of the obstacle course, there's like these cardboard cutouts of 5 different very successful men.
It's like if you win the obstacle course and you make it to the ballers.
Yeah.
I think it actually said ballers above their name. I think it literally said.
It was funny because they had to pick their kids up. One of the parts of the course was to pick up their kids.
This obstacle course was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny though.
It was hilarious though.
But at the end, you've got Dame Dash, Bill Gates, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, which was his name at the time, and then of course, Donald Trump. So definitely, I mean, let's talk about real quick about the fact that throughout a lot of rap music, Donald Trump was kind of a big symbol of money and success.
Yeah.
Living lavishly.
He was shouted out a lot in a lot of rap songs and stuff back in the day.
Well, back in the day, he was just a symbol of money.
Yeah, he was
exactly.
He meant nothing else.
I don't necessarily think that means that Donald Trump fucked with anybody.
No.
It just came off to me as he got attention. He was happy. He was being praised by people. He was willing to take validation from wherever he could.
It's the same thing as when a rapper mentions Bill Gates. I don't think Bill Gates is
Can you imagine
breaking bread with any 50 Cent or nobody, but
regardless. And this is the same time as what was the Apprentice figure on then?
Yeah,
I believe so.
I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah. This is probably in its height of The Apprentice. Yeah,
absolutely.
But
so,
he still had gold towers and everything back then. He was always just recognized with money.
So right off the bat with the College Dropout, he's kind of become a household name. He's become pretty successful. Then he dropped his next record, Late Registration, in 2005. Which, just one little note to put on right now is because, this is a good time to get on this podcast. We're talking about the controversies. He had a song on that record called Diamonds from Sierra Leone, which was about the illegal diamond trade in Africa, otherwise known as blood diamonds, which I thought was interesting that he's already began to get, have this socially conscious part of him.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. And he decides to shed light on something that he feels like, hey, do you guys know about this? You guys must not know about this. Because you wouldn't be wearing these diamonds.
And that's something to say about Kanye West is even though he's kind of been known as kind of megalomaniac, arrogant type of guy, he's always had that conscious rapper element to him. He's always had this certain wokeness that's been there.
More so in the beginning on these first few albums, on these debut albums.
He really pushed that whole woke rapper thing to the mainstream.
Yeah, he would feature.
Tribe Called Quest, KRS-One.
Yeah, he would feature.
They were big in the
woke
90s,
rappers.
yeah. But he pushed it to the main. Common and Lupe and
I'm gonna say Talib Kweli.
At that time, but
he would have all these people feature on his albums. And
they weren't Kanye level.
No,
Kanye really pushed it to the mainstream.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, the music video was shot in Prague, and it showed rich white people next to a bunch of Prague. My bad. next to a bunch of poor black kids mining. So again, he's on that kind of woke shit right off the top. And I just want to mention Gold Digger real quick.
Oh, absolutely.
That's in the canon. That's a part of
that's a huge song for Kanye. That made him Kanye.
You didn't live in 2005 without hearing that song. You just didn't. It wasn't.
You think there's
not in America?
I heard that song every time I went to Popeyes.
You think there's a Kids Bop version of that?
I hope not.
There shouldn't be. I say she's a gold digger.
Yeah,
but she ain't messing with no bro. What would the Kids Bop version?
Wiggers.
There was Kids Bop version. Players.
Wouldn't that be great if you said Wiggins and the Kids Bop songs?
I would literally die.
Grown up.
Teen Bop too.
And this might be a little bit of an age thing to show its age. This song broke the record for best-selling digital download. Back then, in a distant world, you had to pay $1 for a single song off of back then it was just iTunes.
I never saw Lord of the Rings, but I seen a meme the other day. It was a screenshot of the dude who said, it was 1,000 years ago. I was there. And that's exactly how I feel about that digital download.
It was $1 for a song and then $10 for a whole record. So if you had like a 14-song record, you're saving $4, baby. And these records are like, what, almost 20 tracks long, these first 2 records?
They're heavy, dude. They're heavy. And, I mean, you know, yeah. Which I do love the skits on Late Registration, man. Bro. We ain't got it.
Ain't got no money. Ain't got no clothes.
Ain't got no cars. Can't get no hoes.
We broke.
Yeah, great shit.
Was that graduation or late registration?
It's late registration.
Okay. So here we go. To really break into when he first starts being known as a controversial figure in the mainstream, shortly after Late Registration dropped, just a little while after losing the award for Best New Artist at the American Music Awards, Kanye went on NBC with Michael Myers during the coverage of Hurricane Katrina in September, where he famously and somewhat randomly stated,
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
That was really weird.
Well, Ben, he kind of just left it open for someone to say it, and then I started to say it, and Mark said it, so it just made sense to keep going with it.
It was good. But that video, can we talk about how, like, Michael Myers and Chris Tucker?
Oh, what a great... Look, go to YouTube and look
Michael
this up.
Myers, like, literally breathes in like he's about to take his last breath. He's just like...
It's clear in the video that when Kanye begins, he's off script from the jump. He's already off script, and Michael Myers kind of has this quick take where he looks at him like, "Okay, what's going on?" And he says a lot of things about Katrina and about black people rioting and being called rioters, and white people rioting and being called saying they're trying to survive.
And his delivery was very manic. You could tell
he was
really
very
feeling
manic. He was very passionate, and
like he was almost on the verge of tears. It seemed like.
Yeah.
It just really was.
He got, as usual with Kanye, he told too much information. He said, "I've even spent money and I've been shopping before donating, so I've been talking to my business managers about donating as much as I can." And then he kind of tries to get a little more on script. And then Michael Myers comes in. He says he reads off the teleprompter, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can see in Kanye's face, he's like, "Okay,
he's got it.
I've got to go deeper."
Do you think he had that ready before the interview, or do you think it just kind of hit?
No.
He's like, "Fuck it, I'm saying."
I don't believe so. I believe
you can just see like something switches in his
I can
head.
see it in his mind. He's like,
Just
like as he's waiting for Michael Myers to finish talking, he's like, "Okay, I got one." And as soon as Michael Myers finished talking, he goes, "George Bush doesn't care about black people." And Michael Myers is kind of doing the like he's still like on that robotic nodding my head. Then he's like, "Huh?" And then it cuts automatically to Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker already kind of has big bulgy like.
He's like, "What?" And
he's just sitting there like, "Man,
great job, Chris Tucker." Great job, Chris Tucker, jumping on though.
But it really cannot be understated for those who were there. This sent a shockwave throughout our culture, because I think at this time period, overall, I think a lot of people. This is still a talking point that some people still have, but I think it was much more preeminent for people to really think, especially probably if you weren't black, to think that we were in this post-racial society when it's like, everything like civil rights was just as long ago, and then all of a sudden he's like, "No, it's still like this." And everyone was just kind of shook. It just the waters weren't set at that point.
And also, you could not that time and period post 9/11 George Bush. You couldn't talk shit about.
No,
George
you could
Bush.
not talk. The Dixie Chicks got fucking.
The Dixie Chicks got fucking banned from country music for talking shit. I mean, at that time that we were heavy in Iraq, you could not talk shit about.
Shout out to the kid that I worked on some job, and there was an electrician who worked inside, and had a car that literally had a sticker of that screenshot of fucking Kanye West and Michael Myers saying George Bush doesn't care about black people.
I want to make a quick note. In our research, we did look up, in case you're wondering, what Michael Myers thought, and we found some information about 10 years later, way after the fact, where he was like, yeah, I thought I handled it well, and it's just like, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
And he said that he thought it was brave and all that. I would have been interested in hearing what he had to say at the time when that statement was considered more controversial. Because like I said before, at that time period, that was like a real like wake-up call. It was like the water splashed on the sleeping face of America that was not really thinking about those issues as much. But anyway, moving on with his records, he releases Graduation in 2007, and this is kind of the culmination of the arc of him being the antithesis to like gangster rap. There's a highly publicized competition with 50 Cent, who's also putting out his record Curtis around the same time. So at this time, I mean, you've got 50 Cent like the enigmatic, or not enigmatic, but like kind of poster boy for gangster rap at the time. Versus Kanye West, this pink polo middle class kid.
I believe it was both their third album at the time.
Hadn't 50 just put out Get Rich or Die Trying to, like the movie?
So not too long after, or before,
But either way, 50 was hot at this point, and
he was huge. G-Unit was huge. G-Unit was everything at this point.
I spoke about this earlier. Like, I loved 50 too. Like, I wasn't.
Yeah.
He was no schmuck, and also, you know, they were both on the cover of Rolling Stone. This was so big, you know,
face to face.
But this is highly public. This is huge. It was like, here they go, the Titans,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure. I mean, he wiped the floor with 50 Cent.
He did.
Yeah. And so what you have going on is this middle-class kid without any street credit has officially dethroned a gangster rap titan, or at least at the time period. And a lot of people, a lot of like music historians, they consider this to be a major turning point moment for the history of hip-hop in general.
It was.
Yeah, this kind of reminds
game-changing.
me of like pretty recently, like Tyler the Creator and DJ Khaled.
Kind of, but
did they go head to head?
Oh, DJ Khaled on a way lesser scale than 50 Cent. Like, not even in the same league.
I'm glad James Brown got that joke. No one else did.
I definitely did.
But I mean, apparently they were kind of like friends. But I mean, this is interesting. The Good Life video, you can literally see Kanye West stepping on 50 Cent's name, literally his name amongst other names, or on the ground. It's probably just a big green thing they superimpose it on, and Kanye West is stepping on him, just on his name. So, and you can imagine, people seeing that like, dude.
Yep, I did. I remember seeing that. I was like, yep.
Kanye always, he's gonna throw shade at anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Without a single fuck given, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
Also, just want to mention the Good Life video has a visual shout to Virginia Beach, which is where we're all kind of pretty much residing. So,
VB strong, baby.
I want to mention that. I'm sure Kanye West was tight with Pharrell, considering they're both kind of like the producer dude.
Definitely, especially around this time too.
Yeah. And just real quick, this doesn't have anything to do with whether the Good Times are killing us or not, but can we talk about Can't Tell Me Nothing and Young Jeezy's
really quick,
song off that album?
I think Can't Tell Me Nothing is actually my favorite Kanye song, I think, dude. And I always thought it was strange that there's just these Jeezy ad-libs and no actual verse. I've got a theory, guys. I think there was a Jeezy verse. I think there's a hidden Jeezy verse. I think Kanye cut it.
I got money
for whatever reason.
I'm ad-libbing your.
No, I appreciate it. No, don't stop. No. So I think Kanye cut it, and I think he told Jeezy probably beforehand, because I think it would have been really disrespectful to like premiere that song and then like not be on it. So I think he was like, look, I cut it for this reason or that, but I got you. I will let you. We're gonna have a song later on.
I don't even think it's a disrespect thing, because I feel like there's plenty of people that Kanye has left off tracks, but I think it's
But to use their ad libs though, to leave you off the track and keep your ad libs.
Let me finish real quick.
Yeah.
I think
I'm gonna let you finish.
I think it's Kanye always throughout his history knows how to take the best of someone. He can bring the best out of everybody.
Yeah.
And he felt with Young Jeezy at that moment, this is the best that this guy has to offer. And I back it. So those were really good ad-libs.
It works. It fucking works. It really does work.
Those were masterful ad-libs.
Hold on. You're sitting here and telling me Kanye sat Young Jeezy looked him straight in the eye and was like, hey man,
I'm serious.
Your verse ain't working, but your ad-libs are really going to be fire for the song.
I don't think he talked to him about it.
No, I don't
think he talked to him about it. He got the verse, like you said, he got the ad-libs, and Kanye always knows how to use the best of, take the best of anyone and make them look good, and that's what he got with Jeezy.
What if he had two verses and he was like, he cut the first one, he's like, that ain't it, and then he had the last one, he was like, that ain't it either.
But that's still a privilege that he used like something of Jeezy, because there's definitely been people that he didn't use anything at all.
Yeah, true.
So,
well, it's
Good
not
point.
all. It's not all fun and games in Kanye West's world, because I think this is a pretty pretty famous event in the story of Kanye West. On November 2007, the same year that Graduation had dropped, Kanye's mother, Donda West, died from complications from 2 plastic surgery procedures involving a tummy tuck and a breast reduction. And I kind of want to talk about that for a second because I didn't realize before doing this podcast what she died of. And I think there's something almost poetic about the fact that this person who's so well known for being this kind of vain type of person, has his better side. It's kind of like his fatal flaw. There's something poetic about the fact that his mom died from surgeries, which he undoubtedly paid for.
Yeah.
Which were basically like to help her lose weight the easy way, and a breast reduction, which is, want to do that. Fair. But I think I've wondered how that must have processed in his head. Like if he ever felt any kind of sense of guilt for it,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were middle class and everything, but I'm sure, middle class, you don't have, 10 grains just to drop on a surgery, an elective surgery like that. And, I mean, I'm sure he's making all this money. He's so successful. He's on the cover of Rolling Stone, all this shit. He's huge.
His mom probably was like, I feel like I've gained some weight. And he's like,
let me take care of you. I can do this for you, Mom. I can take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
And she dies.
She dies. And
God,
there's... That would affect me. I would completely and totally... Thinking about it rationally, I realize, that wasn't my fault, but in that moment, I know for a fact that I would feel guilty. I would blame myself.
I mean, survivor's guilt, but just extrapolate when, like, in a way, like he's not.
I bought this for you.
Fast forwarding to now, that makes me feel a little awkward about the lipo thing. Like I never thought about that. And thought about
True.
This.
We'll kind of get back to that when we get there. That's a good point. But during a tour following directly after the death of his mother, because she died and he was just right back on the road very soon after. Kanye started using autotune more, which is that kind of T-Pain. Like, can anyone do a good autotune impression? No, it's not working.
Which one of you was
I
that?
wish you could play the Poop Sock video. No, the other one. The one that says Bob would Poop Sock.
But he said that he started using autotune because he felt that he wasn't able to convey the emotions behind his singing part. So you can imagine, he's not able to reach that point because he probably feels just dead inside. But if you use this autotune feature, you can kind of fake this emotion. But he ended up loving it so much that he started using it on his next record, 808s and Heartbreaks, which dropped in 2008, where he used a vastly different style of music from his previous records.
And I remember before the album dropped, when he announced that it would be completely auto-tuned, because this was around the downfall of auto-tune, where it was getting a little played out, and then when Kanye announced that his next album, as all Kanye albums, was much awaited, was going to be exclusively auto-tuned. This was a lot of people were like, "What? What are you doing?"
It's kind of like a gimmick, and it was like you're going to take the gimmick and
just go full gimmick.
Which, granted, on a record, which people knew this is the record he's working on after his mom dies, so he's in this kind of emotional spot, and it's like you're in this kind of grieving, sad, emotional spot, and you're going to go off and use what's another dumb gimmick that exists? I don't know. It just really. Auto-tuned right after all that, you want to do this silly style, so I can imagine that'd be pretty shocking.
This is around the time too. I think Jay-Z had already put out that song "Death of Auto-Tune," kind of condemning it.
Soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of condemning auto-tune at that time too. Yeah, which as a gimmick.
And literally in the music video for that, it shows them burning an outfit that basically it was pink polo, some jeans, and stunner shades in that video.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because
shade.
So in this situation, you see under immense pressure, Kanye West kind of activates a certain artistic side of him, and then he turns something that's horrible into something great. Although we'll mention real quick, there's a lot of kind of contested opinions about this record. A lot of people don't like 808s and Heartbreak. Some people don't even include it.
Yeah.
This record was a record that really... This is the first record that I listened to from Kanye West, where I was plugged in before it came out, and I watched all the music videos, and I was super hyped for it.
This is probably his first kind of divisive record, where he kind of split the numbers up,
Yeah.
By Graduation, he kind of had a huge following.
If you don't fuck with RoboCop, you're not a human.
Yeah, but that's a good segue. He's getting
a robot.
He's being musically divisive, and he's getting more kind of ballsy artistically, but also infamously, we've already alluded to this in 2009 at the so just after this record dropped at the 2009 MTV Music Video Awards, he interrupted when Taylor Swift infamously won the award for Best Female Video, You Belong to Me, which real quick, we had to look up that song because none of us knew.
No one knows that song. Now, what is this song?
Now, I know that song now. That
I mean,
I hear
that
the title,
I remember.
but I didn't know
Yeah.
that's what she won for. Like, no one knows that, but everyone knows Beyonce.
Everybody knows
Yes.
all the single ladies.
But infamously, he went up while she was accepting the award, and he said, "I'm gonna let you finish." But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
All time.
You should have hand-horned
no,
that.
no, it's controversial, but he was right. He was right. Time has proven that he was right. Like, I mean, You Belong to Me, now that you say it, yeah, that's a Taylor Swift song.
Taylor
People know that song.
Powdered milk.
But literally, we had to look up what song she won for.
Dude,
Yeah.
at that point in time, I literally worked at a country bar, and Single Ladies was played.
That should say something.
Boom! There it is.
They're square dancing to Single Lady.
Well, an interesting caveat about this is that was the award for Best Female Music Video, which Beyonce lost that, but then as the night went on, she won to win the award for Best Overall Music Video for All the Single Ladies. So that song still did get its
Okay,
credit.
so it still got
She should
credit.
have won 3 times.
I just won both. But there's like we're looking for like reactions, like what he like if he ever felt remorse for this or if he ever felt bad. And it was interesting on an Ellen interview, like years later, he didn't forgive. I mean, he didn't apologize for it. In fact, he said that he felt like he was a soldier of culture, where maybe he felt like Taylor Swift winning was a slight, like in favor of like white musicians. I mean, what do y'all make of that? That's what he said, soldier of culture.
I mean, everyone, at least everyone in this room can sit down and agree that Single Ladies is 1,000 times better than whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
that song was.
It's in the canon.
And so it's kind of bullshit that it'd be one thing if they were all like 2 songs of the same caliber going head to head and Beyonce didn't win. These songs were completely.
Yeah.
It was next level shit Beyonce was putting out. I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I was a black man, I would feel that way. She only won because she was white.
I don't think
so. Absolutely.
I don't think he thought of it as like an isolated incident. I think he thought of it as like things compounding on people winning awards. I think it was like something that happened over and over again. He was like, "Nah, I'm gonna speak up for Beyonce right now."
I 100% agree. Like, black people have felt like this for a while. Like, we're still, as a whole, waiting for an artist to win the Album of the Year Grammy. And the most recent big controversy with that is Kendrick Lamar was slighted by Taylor Swift for To Pimp a Butterfly didn't win. And
there she go again.
I think it was 2016 Grammys.
Pimp Butterfly, yeah,
but,
that's probably 2015.
But yeah,
2016,
I think it was 2016, and yeah, like black artists, even though we're heavily nominated, it's usually like 4 of us nominated, maybe 2 white artists or whatever. We never win Best Album.
Didn't Macklemore beat Kendrick in something too? Like,
That's just silly.
Like,
Macklemore.
but yeah, sorry to get off topic, but just want to mention, like, white
but
artists,
that's the
black artists
mindset.
have been slighted.
Yeah, that's the mindset he's working with.
Yeah,
you
so-
know?
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's the anger pumping into you, and you're manic, and you're.
And it wasn't even a good record that Kendrick lost to. A good Taylor record.
He was definitely drunk.
Yeah, because literally on the red carpet beforehand, he's walking around with a bottle of Hennessy and like just pour the fuck up.
Yeah.
And again, just wanted to mention again, this happened very recently after his
Right
mother's
after his
death.
mom died.
So
Yeah.
he's kind of in a raw spot. But after the event, he felt like, because of all the media criticism, everything that was going on, he said that he felt like he needed clarity, and he, quote-unquote, left the world for a little while. And this is the time where he starts getting a little bit more focused in his fashion career. So he went on just a big trip. He went to Japan, Rome, Paris, started focusing on fashion a little bit more. But eventually, it's all culminated in him going to Hawaii, where he recorded his next record, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So, alternatively, this is a pretty interesting recording period. While he was recording, he had engineers on board for like 24 hours a day, which I thought that was a weird quote, because it's kind of like, all right, well, Kanye West is definitely sleeping, so is he just expecting to, like, when I wake up, y'all better be on the board.
He's like, shit better already be rolling. I just want to come into a song recording right now.
That's probably for real. Like, he's just waking up in the middle of the night like, hey, I got to take a piss. No, I'm going to go record right now.
Yeah. I got to follow this inspiration right now.
And he was shipping in like artists for features and producers, like all these different people, musicians from all over the world. Like, imagine you're just getting hit up by Kanye West. Granted, also after all the shit was going down, where it's kind of like, oh, Kanye West is calling in. You're kind of like, you know,
he's very controversial at this time too.
He's controversial, but you know what? If you respect him enough, you're going to come out. You're going to go out to going out to Hawaii anyway.
And this, I feel like this became kind of a motif for the way he recorded every album afterwards.
Oh yeah.
You know,
well, actually, his album recording process wasn't exactly on this level for this record, but it started gearing toward this record around Late Registration.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more, hey, I'm going to be out of the room less, and a lot more of these legit producers, these legit artists are just going to be chilling doing the work, and I'm going to peep in, make sure it's good. And yeah, he was crafting some beats and stuff on his own, but a whole lot of like a product is being crafted without him being there, and you know, this better be ready when I get back. Like,
but I always heard he's really, maybe even somewhat too good about crediting people. Like, you know.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So amidst everything that was going down, all the controversy that had happened, and him kind of going off to make this new record, which granted has an interesting name, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies, kind of has a very provocative name. The next year, the next MTV Music Video Awards, he goes up, and while he's walking on stage, everyone's kind of like, you said, people like booing him, or and the prosecutors are like,
he was still hated. He was hated in the nation, man.
Exactly. Remember you from last year? You fucking came up while someone's accepting an award. We're pissed off about that. But then he premiered the song "Runaway" off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
I remember watching this. I'm sorry, I gotta take the reins for a second.
I was going to say it was popping. It was wild.
This is very personal to me. I remember watching this fucking live. Now, I wasn't the whole Taylor Swift controversy or whatever. It didn't, you know, he was hated. It was known that he was hated. It didn't bother me much at the time. Like, you know, I was still pretty much a fan. But this was his comeback. So seeing him, like, on TV after, like, such a long time of not seeing Kanye, awaiting this album more than any other album, you know, and then he comes on, he closes these VMAs, and, like, with this amazing song, it blew my mind. I remember being 100% captivated through the whole thing.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite like live performances.
Yeah, it was definitely one of my Kanye fucking moments.
It's fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
To briefly go up on the kind of personal thing, you know, going back and doing this episode, I listened for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and the next record that came out after this, Yeezus, were the two Kanye records where I just wasn't really plugged in. I think I was only into like metal and hardcore at that time. So going back and doing this and re-listening to those records, all the records, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy definitely stood out to me as like one of the most intriguing records because he's bringing back the rap parts that were on his first three records, but he's taking what he learned from doing 808s and Heartbreaks and this kind of unique approach to music and the rap genre and making something totally unique that wasn't as polarizing as 808s.
Yeah, and I don't think we've given enough love to 808s either. Like, as polarizing as it was still I love that album. That was probably for a long time my favorite Kanye album.
It's unfortunate because it's kind of become like a footnote of the entire discography of Kanye West.
I think it's gotten a lot of love over time. It's done better, and people have seen it seen it better over time, but yeah, definitely at that time it was very divisive. Like I said, it was his first kind of divisive album.
But catching back up to speed, it's important. Like for a lot of people like you, and I think a lot of people watching this, when they saw "Runaway" come out, it was like, oh shit, Kanye's back.
Bro,
We're back.
We're back. He's back. You know, it was huge.
But he also dropped I guess you could call it a music video called "Runaway," which wasn't just "Runaway." It was like almost half that record.
It was a short film, It's a 30-minute short film where he kind of featured pretty much all the songs with a little, like, story behind it. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, he directed that, and he was talking about how he drew influences from, like other long-form music videos, such as
The Wall.
Thriller by Michael Jackson, and also The Wall
Pink
by
Floyd's
Pink
The
Floyd.
Wall, yeah.
And I could definitely see that vibe. It kind of has a little bit of an avant-garde element, and also the idea of life imitating art. That video has a phoenix, which of course, if you don't know, a phoenix, their whole thing is they burn up, they turn to ashes, and then they're reborn. It's commonly known as like a symbol of rebirth. And remember, Kanye West was just hated by our culture a year before, and he comes back. it's kind of like, he's doing a thing right there.
It also should mention that the album cover, which there were for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I think like a few different album covers, but the main album cover was like a representation of Kanye and a phoenix, like on a couch. It looked like they were fucking, and Kanye had Kanye had like a bottle of alcohol, and it's blurred out. The literal album cover is blurred out.
Yeah, if you go on Spotify, Apple Music,
and I remember seeing a tweet from Kanye when the album had dropped, or about it being blurred out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they don't want to see me with my phoenix." Like, I remember thinking that was funny.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, we've got Yeezus coming out in 2013. So a good 3 years later. This is a big break between records.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I mean, first off, we maybe take it for granted because we know the record so well. But the fact that this album was called Yeezus, an obvious kind of combining of his name and Jesus, it kind of like people already kind of knew Kanye as being this kind of like arrogant self, at his worst, like a kind of megalomaniacal type of feller.
Wait, real quick. Let's just, because we might have to say this again. Megalomaniac.
Yeah. So in a promotional video, he has a reimagining from a scene from American Psycho, the famous scene where
Patrick Bateman
is looking at all these different records, and he's hanging out with this kind of business associate, played by Jared Leto, who's getting really drunk, and he's going off on how good the music is.
I think it was Huey Lewis in the News in the movie. Yeah.
But in this reimagining, it's Yeezus. But when you think about, I was thinking about this before we watched that video, this idea of, American Psycho is about a megalomaniacal, narcissistic motherfucker, and I think it's kind of like a meta-awareness of what he knows people are going to think when they have a record called Yeezus, with the head single, or the first single being, I Am a God.
Yeah. So I was trying to remember, because Yeezus was probably one of the first Kanye albums where I wasn't on top of it when it came out, and something had put me off to Kanye around this time. And I was trying to remember looking back before we did this episode, and yeah, it was definitely the whole blasphemous angle he was taking with the Yeezus thing and the I Am a God thing. I was like, what is going on with Kanye? But there was also this whole other element where he was in all the promotional things where he was using Confederate flags and a lot of the imagery for his shirts and his a lot of his merchandise and stuff. And I think he said he was trying to rebrand the Confederate flag at the time, and it just wasn't doing it for your boy.
He was trying to get us to take it back.
It wasn't working.
One
man alone.
Y'all know Clerks 2? When he's calling everyone porch monkeys, and he's like, I'm taking it back. And they're like, you can't say that. It's already been done. It's already over.
They're like, thanks for the intention, but
no thanks.
That ain't working.
Yeah, so he was wearing these Confederate flags and stuff like that. And that's kind of the beginning of, I don't want to say the beginning of the end, but the beginning of what I think a lot of you know we're going to be getting to very soon.
Yeah, another strong left turn for Kanye on the Yeezus album. But the Yeezus album... Right turn.
But at the same time as he's doing a lot of these crazy extreme things, he's ramping up how extreme his antics are. He gives us a very extreme album, not only sonically with some of his craziest production, but lyrically. Some of the not only concepts and themes, he gives us some of the most pro-black stuff. Some of the most pro-black stuff he's ever given us. Some of the imagery he's giving us is very extreme. Talking about fisting a girl, and. But what really wrote me into Yeezus lyrically is how pro-black it is, and it's still very honest. It's still some very beautiful storytelling there, and love stories, and his profession to his love for Kim, and I really slept on this record when it first dropped.
Same.
But coming back to it,
what an album!
I love this record so much with all my heart, and I just wish that everyone would just love it, because I just feel like it's just so amazing. What really actually won me over with this record was I was watching an episode of Blackish. I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago, and I think most of the episode was based on the divisiveness of this country over Trump or something. But they had a scene where they were really just going in on. They were really just bringing the whole episode together, and they played "Blood on the Leaves" in the background.
Oh wow!
And I was like, "This song is so perfect for this scene," and now I have to give this whole album a chance. And that's when I realized that how pro-black that whole record really is. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about how good Jesus is.
It's also much like musically, it's much more hard hitting too, because he collaborated with Daft Punk again and a bunch of other kind of French. Forgive my lack of knowledge about the genre, but I would just call it, I guess, Euro trash, where it's like very like boom, or like even Black Slaves, doom, 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 like it pounds. And like personally, this actually isn't my favorite Kanye West record, but if I could have any record that I could like hear blasted at maximum volume in a stadium, it would be this. This record is really hard hitting.
This is probably, well, I guess technically it's not his video, but probably one of my favorite music videos of all time is James Franco and Seth Rogen's video cover of Bound 2.
Yeah.
So
Seth Rogen's playing the naked Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. I did not like Bound 2 until I saw that.
That shit's fucking
that video showed me Bound 2. I was like, shit. Watching them enjoy it and fucking have fun with it like that made me enjoy that song.
So
it showed me the beauty of that song. But fucking speaking of Yeezus and just my love for that album and how like hard hitting and like sonically how heavy that album is, I think of it in my mind as Kanye's like angry album. But like if you ever see like those fucking memes or anything, there's like it's 1,000 speakers with this huge system. There's like, what's the first song you're playing on this? I've been playing I Am a God like at full blast on like the loudest speakers I can.
One thing real quick, shouts out to Fins of Our Fathers.
Also, just want to mention the song I Am a God, which obviously a lot of people saw that and thought it was very blasphemous. Kanye's whole reaction to that was that he didn't consider it blasphemous because he was quoting a line from the Psalms in which God says that you are all gods. So when he's saying I am a God, he's saying like, I'm a God, you're a God, we're all gods, that type of thing.
Dude, he just talked to Jesus and Jesus said, what's up, Jesus?
But undoubtedly, Kanye West knew what he was doing by having such a provocative song title. And I think at this point he kind of knows, it's like, I'm known for this. This is how Kanye West builds something for each of his releases. It's all kind of based off of his controversies. But also want to mention, same thing in that video for was it Bound 2?
Bound 2,
where in the music video he's on a motorcycle with Kim Kardashian. Just want to mention that he married Kim Kardashian in May of 2014, so the following year that he just came out. So
those crazy kids.
Yeah, we almost did this entire episode without, or did the whole outline for this episode without mentioning that. All right, so just a few years later, after dropping Yeezus, he drops The Life of Pablo in 2016, which definitely had a very, let's say, tumultuous rollout.
It had a wild rollout, yeah, but it was huge still. Nonetheless, it was a big album for Kanye. I feel like he brought a lot of people back on board.
Oh yeah, I would like to mention that the first song that he dropped from Life of Pablo that really just made us all like shut the fuck up, even though his antics were wild, was Real Friends. He was doing crazy shit on Twitter, like he was saying all types of crazy shit, doing all types of crazy shit. But he dropped Real Friends, and I was just like, wow, this motherfucker can do whatever the fuck he wants if he keeps dropping this.
What was it? It was Real Friends, and there was one other song for Life of Pablo. I can't remember what
he dropped around the same time.
No More Parties in L.A. with Kendrick. That was, right after Real Friends, that's a single. He had dropped No More Parties in L.A., and it was like, okay, we're back.
Yeah.
We're back. But yeah, still a really tumultuous rollout, a really wild rollout.
Yeah, but literally. I mean, he did the SNL performance of Ultralight Beam with all the gospel singers and everything on stage. Kurt Franklin, all these heavy hitter gospel singers.
Bro, we don't want no devils in this house.
And then literally, as he's rolling on the ground, screaming after it, he's like, "Life of Pablo just dropped right now."
Go right now!
I think who he brought together for not only the album, not only that SNL performance, kind of speaks on how spastic he is, but I think his ability to be eclectic and bring together people of so many extremes is one of the reasons why me and a lot of other people who have eclectic music tastes are so much in love with him. Only this type of person can put together an album like Yeezus and have Charlie Wilson from the Gap Band be on the same record with Daft Punk and all these Euro producers on the same record where it's the debut of Travis Scott production, on the same record with Chief Keef singing in auto-tune. And then you fast forward to his next record, Life of Pablo, you have Kirk Franklin on the same track with Chance the Rapper. Like, it's just pure insanity, and his spastic tendencies, they get on our nerves, but I think that's how he's able to bring us such great music.
He's a musical genius, man.
Yeah.
So it's worth mentioning that when this record dropped, it was a Tidal exclusive, which is Jay-Z's streaming service, basically.
Yep.
And he recorded the album, like various songs, many different times, and you were just constantly like, one day you'd have version 1 of Life of Pablo, next day you got version 1.1 or whatever, just constantly changing. Even the album art
even the album itself, like sonically as a whole, is like all over the place. It's awesome and it's amazing, but it doesn't. I feel like it's the most kind of like erratic Kanye album. It goes like up and down in a bunch of different vibes, and it's a great album altogether. Collectively, it's amazing, but like it's very sporadic.
Well, I think during this time period, he was kind of getting a little bit more mentally unhinged, like it just in terms of like his own issues with bipolar. I think this was around the time that he got diagnosed with being bipolar. So I think this is kind of, it's like a mixture of the process that he already has, where it's very meticulous, but it's happening after he's already put the record out, and he's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it again and again and again. But also, another really weird thing to mention is, I forgot to put it in the notes, but he put out that one music video, that really weird, controversial music video, which is a big long
Famous?
shot. Yeah. Famous, yeah. Where basically, if y'all want to talk about it real quick, I'm going to look up the names of all the people that are in it.
Yeah, so it's just like it's basically wax replicas of, I think it's about like 10 people. It's
Kanye, Kim, Taylor Swift, George W. Bush,
Ray J.
What's that?
Anna Wintour,
Rihanna,
Chris Brown. Ray J, which is interesting because Ray J is right next to
Kim Kardashian.
And those of you guys who don't know, Ray J did the infamous sex tape with Kim Kardashian. Amber Rose, Caitlyn Jenner, and Bill fucking Cosby.
And Donald Trump.
And Donald Trump. Very important.
Bill Cosby being the late reveal, like halfway through the and the
with a big bloated belly.
And this is, by the way, for those who don't know, this was when we first started finding out about all the Bill Cosby shit. Let's just put it like
this
that.
was when he was at the height of his like whole scandal. But this video itself, it's already like all cut up and choppy. It's what, 10, 11 minutes long? Like,
And it's all just one, it's like just a bunch of mannequin or wax models, and they're not really doing anything besides breathing
loudly.
And they just keep zooming in on all of them, and they're like, this is a video, I guess? It doesn't feel like a music video, like you put it, where it feels like an art project.
Yeah, it feels like an art project with a voyeurism type theme, because there's a lot of like still shots. I mean, not still shots, but like these weird, like where the music drops out, and it's just these weird like breathing shots, and it's a very strange music video.
And then the thing happened, let's also bring Taylor Swift back in the equation here. For one, you see Taylor Swift's boobs in the video. And what'd she call that? She said it was basically like revenge porn or something.
She called it revenge porn. I don't know, dude. She basically, like, he called and asked her for permission to use her likeness or whatever in the video. Something along those lines.
Well, wasn't it also something else? Because he had a line in one of his songs.
It was a line in the song Famous.
I could fuck Taylor Swift if I want. Like, something about fucking Taylor Swift.
The line is, oh shit.
I know you know.
I think Taylor Swift still owe me sex, which is actually a reference to another line from the
I made that
song.
Bitch famous.
Yes, because I made that bitch famous.
Yeah.
But, like, the big controversy is she was like, I didn't give him permission for anything. And then Kim leaked, like, a recording of Taylor Swift giving permission, and then Taylor Swift changed it up and was like, well, I didn't give him permission to call me a bitch. And
she's like, well, and then they had to add an extra caveat. And then right after that, didn't she put out that one record where she got all edgy and dark, where she was like, look what she made me do. And all that, like, oh, okay, you're such a bad girl, yeah.
She's a bad girl now.
Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar's rapping in my phone.
But let's also mention, I mean, on top of all that weird shit, on top of the record being redone, I mean, he's really starting to unravel. There's a famous interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show, or Ellen, where he's just acting really spastic and weird the entire interview. The most famous part of it is when he just kind of looks at her and he's looking at the crowd and he's like, Picasso is dead. Steve Jobs is dead. Walt Disney is dead. Name one other person you can name in the same breath as them, you know, and everyone just kind of like, What are you?
Yo, but he's saying some real shit right there.
I kind of get the sentiment of what he's saying.
There ain't no Steve Jobs left in the world. There ain't no Picassos right now.
I think
There's only Kanye.
They are dead.
They are
That
dead.
is real shit.
Fact.
Oh, well, that's real shit. They are dead.
Fact. Picasso is dead. Fact. Steve Jobs is dead.
Objective fact. Very good.
He ends that rant too with saying, "Shit. Oh, sorry for the realness." Because he's like.
There's one more thing at that time that I really enjoy is the quick video. I think he's like on Jimmy Kimmel and he's like, "The paparazzi disrespects my family," and then it's like a quick shot of him like going out to the car and there's a paparazzi guy saying, "Hey, good morning, Kanye," and he's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, I mean, he's losing it. And so around this time, Kanye West is really starting to lose it. I mean, the culmination of all that is in a November tour of that year, 2016, on that record, just following when Kim Kardashian was actually robbed, where obviously if he's already kind of bipolar, he's already kind of going crazy, all of a sudden your wife gets robbed. He canceled a whole string of shows, ultimately leading to a psychotic breakdown. And after this, he just quit Twitter for 11 months. He was out of the picture. But it's also worth mentioning, because we're about to get into the big stuff, what you're all waiting for. It was during that time period where he was going on, when he was playing these shows, that he started going off these kind of freestyle tangents.
Yeah, during the St. Pablo tour, it's not uncommon. Kanye did used to have these kind of freestyle little rants on his shows where there'd be like kind of an instrumental track playing, and he would kind of just either sing or freestyle sing or just kind of talk, and it was kind of one of his things. It's kind of a staple at his shows. And
well, around this time period, this was when people were talking about President Trump, where President was the then president-elect. It kind of ended, I guess, right when he was elected. And let's also not forget that Donald Trump had oddly and awkwardly actually met with Kanye West, I think it was like a year or so prior, that famous video where they're coming out of the elevator.
This was actually right after, this is right around that time. So this is after the St. Pablo tour is canceled and President Trump is elected. And
well, before that, there was that time when he was just the president-elect,
this is like right after the tour. This is like right after the breakdown.
Right after this, when we had that big interview.
Yeah, this is the first. This is after he's hospitalized, and this is the first thing that happens after he's hospitalized.
So he's a sick man. He's not in any state.
No,
just gets out of the hospital and he's like, "I'm going to go talk to the president."
Yeah. So
it's not a good representation for anybody.
Yeah, and that was like kind of the first like, whoa, what?
Yeah, that's weird that he even has that type of power.
What did they talk about?
Dude, I don't even know where to begin. But I got a couple notes in here. But so he starts going to Twitter and he starts posting the pictures of him wearing the "Make America Great Again" hat, the MAGA hat, and has response to his much publicized support for Donald Trump. He puts out this song called "Yay Versus the People," which had dropped, just real quick mention, just after he'd put out that song "Lift Yourself."
Lift Yourself. What a banger, dude.
But but "Yay Versus the People" it's a weird song because it's a back and forth dialogue between Kanye and T.I. where they're having like this kind of like almost like rap argument, and you can't tell how it's very strange. We're pretty much Kanye is saying why he supports the president, and T.I. is just bringing up all like the talking points that most of us probably think if we're, in that situation.
You got a lot of people looking up to you, But Kanye, like we said before, he's one of those people, you can't tell Kanye what to do. You definitely can't tell Kanye what not to do.
Yeah.
So he just starts going deeper. He starts doubling down.
And that's the thing, is that in a lot of the kind of interviews around the time, he's always bringing up this point, and it goes back to what you're talking about, what we were talking about from the very beginning. If you tell Kanye West he can't do something, he's going to do the exact opposite. And in a lot of interviews, he would talk about how he felt like as a black man, he felt like he could only be a Democrat. And he apparently he had kind of like talked to some people, and he was like, "Hey man, I kind of like Donald Trump," like his people like kind of on the low, and they were like, "No man, you can't do that.
You shouldn't do that."
But when you say that to Kanye West,
yeah,
you start a whole storm inside of him, and especially again with all of his mental instability that's going on, his bipolar is really kicking into full gear around this time period. And then around this time period, he had gone on TMZ in May of 2018, where he had. I remember when this happened. This was a crazy. He did this kind of long form interview tirade where he's talking to like two guys, and then in the middle of the TMZ office, he just stands up And you're just like, yo, I want y'all to listen to me.
Everybody listen. Everybody stop what they're doing. Everybody stop fucking working on whatever you're working on in this office and listen to what I'm saying right now.
Which, real quick, actually, we almost forgot to mention before he had stood up.
Oh, yeah, before he... Yeah. So before he even stands up, that's when he has the infamous... he says, 400 years of slavery? Sounds like a choice to me.
Oh,
yeah. There we go.
Dude, that you can imagine didn't go over well.
No.
But anyway, continuing on with this interview, I mean, he'd got, or if it's even an interview at this point, I mean, he gets up from the interview, just talking to the whole place, totally breaking the planned idea of what was supposed to happen
of an
here,
interview,
which again is pretty on cue with Kanye West with everything else. He kind of goes off script. He's going at everybody.
Well, he also called in and came in for that interview. It wasn't like a scheduled interview either. He like called Harvey. What's the TMZ guy's name? Harvey.
I don't know.
I can't think. Well, he called bro. He was like, hey, I'm pulling up.
He's probably on a high.
Yeah, Harvey Levin. He's like, hey, I'm pulling up. I want to talk to you guys right now. And so it was like an impromptu interview.
Which I'm sure, because again, this is him when he's like hardcore in bipolar mode. I mean, I suppose he's probably always had bipolar.
This is like in that manic state.
Exactly, and this is when
he's God right now.
He's on a high state, and you know, I mean, if you all don't know, if you're bipolar, you kind of have highs and lows, like highs where you feel like you're on top of the world, you're amazing, and then lows where you like hate your own guts, you hate everybody else, or however it works for you. And, of course, he's on a high. He calls the guy. He goes to TMZ. He says slavery is a choice. He gets up. He talks to everybody else. He reveals all this really personal stuff, which kind of going off of what you were saying, James Brown, about him being very real.
Always giving too much information.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always giving just a little too much information. He had to get liposuction because he didn't want to get laughed at like Rob did and have to leave the wedding.
Before his wedding, he talks about it. He's like, hey, I'm bipolar, and before, just, I don't know, it's very out of nowhere, the way he does it. He's just like, yo, I'm bipolar, and I got liposuction before our wedding because I want to get laughed at like Rob did. And then afterwards, I was prescribed opioids, and I had an opioid addiction. It's just like, all this is just so, like, what?
And
the best
no, you're good. Like, the way Kanye talks, too, I've seen him do this in plenty of interviews, where he talks, like, so broadly, where he is talking about 3 or 4 different things at one time. And it's all under this big umbrella that, like, it's so crazy, like, at face value, is like, this dude is just all over the place. And he is all over the place, you know, but, I mean, it's very classic Kanye.
Yeah, the best thing is watching that video of the whole thing and just seeing, like, the people, like, these are just people, like, it's a normal office building.
Yeah, they're at fucking
on, like,
work.
And again, this was a plan.
Yeah,
this is like a Thursday.
Kanye West, of all people, is just screaming, hey, look at me! And, like, the look on these people's faces, and then what was that,
Candace Owens.
Yes, she sits in the background clapping like the mom from, fucking... with the clumps. The Nutty Professor. Yes, Kanye. Yes, Kanye. Yes.
Well, then a hero rose out of the dust while he was arguing. One dude was not having it. A man who worked for a reporter for TMZ by the name of Van Lathan, who just came out swinging. Like, he's going up against Kanye West, one of his heroes, someone who's way more famous and rich.
He called him out, bro. He called him out on all his free thinking bullshit. Free stinking bullshit. He called him out on it and was like, yeah, he was, you know.
That'll teach
But he called him out on his shit and, you know, let him know, like, hey, it's great for you in your position to fucking say these things and think this way or whatever, but, like...
We're living in the real world.
We're living in the real world where I'm dealing with this shit right now.
Yeah, the effects of someone with that type of power, I mean, kind of like some Spider-Man shit, with great power comes great responsibility, and if you're the one saying that type of stuff...
Yeah, it's a slap, it's literally a slap in the face. He spoke for all the people that felt, I mean, definitely the way I felt, like, hurt. Literally fucking hurt by Kanye. From him, you know, and saying these things like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, what is going on?
And, God, and then it doesn't even get any better. Kanye still belts out. He's kind of like, I feel you, and he tries to hug him and shit and all this, because he does, I think in his head, he doesn't want to be wrong. He can't be wrong, so he was like, oh, I know you just told me why everything I just said is stupid, but I still want to hug you for some reason. But anyway, he went on and said some other dumb shit, so here are a couple, I'll start him off the dumber and then the more serious. So at one point he said, TMZ is the hospital of the whole world. fuck does that even mean? He said Obama was our opioid. I thought that was interesting. And here's a hard one. He said, black people have a tendency to dwell on a white person in a hat killing a black person. This is a response to him wearing the MAGA hat. Well, there are 700 kids in Chicago being killed by other black people every day. So he brings up the very tired and not true, but tired talking.
Some like black on black. Like,
far right kind of talking point. Well, even just regular right sometimes. But he's not making it any better. And again, I think, as far as it's interesting to think back at the beginning. He was like, I'm a soldier of culture. And then.
Yeah. So, a lot of people, a lot of Kanye, ex-Kanye fans are kind of like, where are you at, dude? Like, what is going on with you? Like, I don't know. This song.
At this point, this was someone who was a hero in my eyes. Could do no wrong. No matter all the crazy stuff he had done up until this point, still, he could just do no wrong. And now, when he, was bringing up the what about black on black crime kind of viewpoints and was, I don't know, just doing all this wild stuff, bringing up the slavery was a choice, he broke my heart, and I feel like a lot of black people felt the same way, and
especially people who are still on board with Kanye at this point. Because I'll tell you, a lot of people, he had become kind of controversial and divisive already before this. So this was what? I think
it's interesting though, because his the two sides of his previous controversy tended to be kind of one side is kind of generally liberal, kind of pro-black, and then the other side is generally kind of conservative. I mean, look at George Bush doesn't care about black people. That's a slight against this kind of a powerful white man. He's pretty much calling racist. The thing with Taylor Swift, he's saying that the Grammys, MTV has a slight in favor of white people. So that was his divisive point for the longest time. So he's got these two sides. That one side is almost always behind him, and then he does this where he's switching it up and he's going back. So he's divisive for a whole other reason. He's dividing the people that believed in his prior divisiveness. Does that make any sense?
Nah, I follow you.
Yeah, and it's interesting because then he kind of goes back to the other side where all of a sudden he's his politics are pretty. I don't even know what to say about him, but we'll talk a little bit. It sounds like we're kind of getting into what we want to do at the end, but let's continue the story. Shortly after this interview, he dropped "Yay" in 2018, which the cover of this record is of the Teton Mountains, and it says, "I hate being bipolar. It's awesome," which is very weird. And where did he shoot the?
He's literally
it's in
driving
Utah. Wyoming.
He was literally driving on the way to the album release party he was throwing, and took a picture and wrote on it on his phone, and that was the album cover.
Yeah. It's a beautiful picture of some mountains.
That's a nice picture. I think it's a dope album cover.
But I mean, altogether, honestly, I mean, there's some good songs. Weakest Yay album.
I think it's definitely the weakest record.
And I'm a big fan of and I don't know if it's related to everything else that's going on, but I wanted this. I wanted it to be a good album.
I don't think it is because we can admit that Kids See Ghosts was great.
Yeah, Kids See Ghosts is amazing. It's great. Yeah, but
and it's interesting because it's all this stuff is going downhill so fast. I mean, on the bright side, he did. At the same time period, he put out Kids See Ghosts in collaboration with Kid Cudi. He put out, what was the name of Pusha T's record?
Daytona.
He also did a Nas record, right? Although I know that wasn't his
he did all the
production
to Nas's record, and he did a couple features, mostly singing.
Can we talk about Daytona for a second?
Hell yeah.
I really feel like this was a very Kanye thing to do, but the cover of Daytona is literally Whitney Houston's bathroom. Whitney Houston's bathroom counter from the night she died, and I feel like Kanye probably had a lot to do with that picture being on the album cover.
If nothing else, Pusha T came to him and he was like, "Bro, I'm thinking about maybe doing this," and Kanye was like, "Yeah, do this." But yeah, and it's interesting to mention during a lot of the promotional interviews, he's asked over and over and over again about his support for Donald Trump. He never really wavers much, and I don't know if y'all want to talk about it a little bit. It's kind of what do y'all? Actually, no, we'll wait for the end to really talk about whether the good times are killing us or not. But I also just want to mention, Kids See Ghosts. That record is fucking awesome.
That shit slaps, man. That shit slaps, dude.
One of the great things about doing this podcast is when we kind of go through, we're kind of absorbing media, whether it be movies or music.
We fully, and I'll give us credit for this shit, whether or not we're have a personal stake or into the topic, we fucking fully immersed, man.
Yeah, we've been living in Kanye West.
I will say this is my most happy I've been.
Yes, fair enough. Up until we started re-watching some of that TMZ shit, that definitely
that
took the wind out of it. It hurt a little more.
But no one's in a suit fucking another person.
Yeah. It's much better than Fergus.
And that's the thing is for me, intentionally going back and listening to this. By the time we got to see Kids See Ghosts, which is again after because I was listening to these records as we were going through watching interviews. So at all times, it's I feel like all of us we were listening and watching Kanye. We were just going through all the years. And by the time we get to Kids See Ghosts, which is after all those stupid interviews, after Ye, which is not that pretty subpar record, I found myself loving the record, but then Kanye's verses would come on, I'll just be like, all right,
man.
I don't even need you anymore.
Wrap it up.
And it's sad because at the beginning of this whole research thing, I was going back and I fell back in love with them, and then by the end,
you fall right back out. You go through the whole cycle, full fucking full circle. Just
yeah. All right, so let's see. We got a couple other notes from the David Letterman interview, and then we can kind of start calling.
Where he is now. What's going on with Kanye right now? Let's talk about what news?
Well, this is one thing he's also talked about. This was in the David Letterman interview, but you can also see in some of the interviews after Ye came out where he talks about the Me Too movement, and he kind of has some weird kind of opinions on that. Where he actually in one of his songs on Ye,
Kanye has weird opinions on the Me Too movement. Fucking shocking.
I remember there was some song on Ye where he's talking about I just hope that I don't get called out or whatever, and he talks about the fear. And he kind of has a very
on Yikes, I think
he's more biased against the Me Too movement, it sounds like, and in every interview people are just like, dude,
Yikes. Oh, quick to mention actually, because Yikes was a song that was written by Drake on his album. Drake co-wrote some songs on that album, which was some of the kindling on the fire, which became the beef that they had shortly after, which led into the beef with him and Pusha T and everything. But Drake came down and helped write on that album that Kanye was working on when he was pulling everybody to come down to Wyoming and help him with this album. And then and I guess in exchange, he had gave Drake a beat. He was like, "You can have this beat for Lift Yourself." And Drake was going to put that on his album.
And he literally pooped on it.
He literally,
not literally.
The whole beef was, and I'm just going to go over this real quick because it's not that important, but they came down, they were collaborating and stuff, and finally were going to be making music together, which they didn't make music together. He just helped Kanye write some songs and work on these songs. And in exchange, he was like, well, we're going to be working together. We got to be fucking transparent with each other. We'll let you know when I'm going to drop my album. You let me know when you're going to drop your album. And so Drake's like, all right, cool, sure. I'm going to drop my album in June and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, cool, I'm going to let you have this song that I've been producing, since we haven't had time to work together. And he gives him Lift Yourself. Then he turns around and uses Lift Yourself and fucking shits all over it, basically. Yeah. And releases it.
Literally talks about poopity scoopy.
And then when Drake told him that he was dropping his album in late June, Kanye drops 7 albums in June.
What do you think that was? Is that just is kind of on the low, fuck you, Drake?
I don't know, but it's fucking, it looks shitty, dude. It looks pretty dirty. Wow.
Drake sucks.
I also just want to mention, we almost got to mention that the first song on Ye is a song called I Thought About Killing You. Which
I like that song.
Which again, in a lot of interviews, because again, he knows his playbook. I think this is also a big part of the Donald Trump thing. Is he knows that when he's provocative and he's controversial, he'll get people to listen. And in every interview, he always mentions this thing about when they say "What about I thought about killing you? What's up with that?" He's like, "Yeah, when I thought about what it would mean if I came out with my first song being I Thought About Killing You," and he's talking about it very cognizant of the fact that it's controversial.
He's fully aware of every move that he's making, even though it might seem like he's not. He is, dude. He's planning this very meticulously.
But I think that's kind of almost an issue. At this point, it's almost become calculated. I don't think it was always calculated. I think it's kind of who he was, him as being the maximum version of himself, which is a philosophy he kind of talks about. But by this point, I feel like maybe he's dissociated through his bipolar, through his issues, whatever.
Not quite relating as well as he thought he was.
Mm-hmm. Also, wanted to mention another, while we're kind of rattling off these notes, Kanye West, despite all of his supposed support for Donald Trump, apparently he's never voted in his life. So
he literally doesn't know shit about politics. So why are you endorsing this dude so hard and you don't even understand what's going on?
which is even more dangerous.
It's way more dangerous because
you're just putting shit out there and not really having a stake or a reason behind it other than just to fucking say it.
Mm-hmm. And also, most recently, I guess this is something he is known for. We're talking about Kanye West in his current form. He's been doing these Sunday services, these pop-up services, which I know he's done at a couple of festivals. I know he did it at Coachella. He did it at Something in the Water. I'm fairly certain, right?
No, that would have been wild.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking, I was like, Kanye West is there? But anyway, he's been doing these Sunday services where basically for an hour on Sundays, he kind of, he'll play songs that are, kind of have like a more almost, I don't know how to put this,
kind of like
gospel
gospel vibe, more gospel angle to them.
Mm-hmm. It's weird watching videos of them though, because in between songs, he'll talk and he'll kind of give his philosophies and stuff like that. And people are like, it's kind of has gospel church vibe. Well, he'll say some kind of like really easy
Kanye shit.
Some Kanye shit, some really basic philosophy. Like one thing he always says, there are two buttons in life, love and fear. And then the crowd will be like, oh, you know that gospel thing where everyone's kind of like, whoo, whoo. And like you just imagine someone fanning their face like, whoo, like it's that type of thing. And it's just a trip because that's all contributing to his like you can't tell me nothing type of mentality.
You're feeding into his complex. You're feeding into the bipolar. He's got a God complex on that high, and you're just feeding into it, dude.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I think in a way it's cool because it looks like a very emotional service. I will say that it looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those like scenes where like he's like on the keyboard, just like going crazy, and everyone's just like jumping along with him. Like that looks dope as shit.
Yeah, it looks fun.
Looks like a good time, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good. Okay, so I think that's a good segue into our final segment. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a good chance that this is your first episode listening to us because you saw furries, you saw new metal, and you saw Takashi Miike, and you were like, what the fuck? And you're probably listening to Kanye West episode for the first time.
You're like, this is a good one to get in on.
Yeah, so we have a segment at the very end where we decide whether or not the good times are in fact killing us. We make a decision on whether or not this person, place, thing, event, whatever it is it killing our society or is it making it better? Any kind of like roundtable last words before we have our back and forth? Any other things we need to discuss as a group?
No, man. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
Let's just peel the Band-Aid off right now.
All right, who wants to go first?
I'll take it.
We let our guest.
Yeah, let the guest take it.
Okay.
Let the guest take it.
JB.
Right now, I feel like that this is killing us, but I want to chime in and say that he's always had the habit of resurrecting himself. I think he gets off on like being hated and making a comeback or being down and out.
Maybe
being a comeback king.
Maybe resurrecting himself from the ashes.
Yeah, like
I
think he deep down like wanted to be hated. He always wants to push himself farther away. Even maybe that was, you could argue that might have been hidden goals behind 808 and Heartbreaks or Yeezus. Not saying that I hate either of those albums, but they're so far away from everything else he done and everything that people loved. He strayed away from them after he gave people more what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's killing us. He's really killing me right now. But he's killing us, but I can't count him out. And one thing I do really want to hone in on is, as annoying as he can be, and as much as I hate his political opinions, and as bad as I think they are for people who might be looking up to him, for as much as I looked up to him when I was younger, and as much as his music means to me, etc., like, if he were to, like, pass away right now, if something happened to him,
I was just thinking that. I was going to bring that in.
I would cry. Like, I would feel bad. Like, I would cry. Like, I do love him, but it's hard, and I have to admit that this version of him I do not love, and I do not endorse the things that he's done, and I'm not going to put him or his art over the struggle of my ancestors or anyone oppressed. I'm not going to put him over women, my sisters. I'm not, and the way he endorses Donald Trump, and yeah, so he's killing me right now. But I'm not going to rule him out because people can change, people can come back, and yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna go this one. You can wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right. I would mostly second that. I mean, when we were talking about how we were going to do this segment with Kanye West, we were talking about, like, you almost have to separate the then Kanye and the new Kanye.
The old Kanye.
And the old Kanye.
The old Kanye. We never even brought that up.
The old Kanye, I don't think was killing us. I think overall he was a very positive force in our society. Granted, do I think he has his flaws? Yes, absolutely. But right now, he's definitely killing us because he's got a heavy torch. He's got a lot of responsibility with his position in our society. I don't think he's doing the best with it. And honestly, even if I was a fucking Trump supporter, I would want this guy to at least be more coherent. I can't understand barely anything he's fucking saying. It's so hard. But what I will say is he's trying really hard. He's trying to do good for our society. Even when you watch these kind of manic interviews where he's saying a lot of bullshit, you'll hear these little pieces where you can tell it's like he has a straight trajectory, but in order to get there, he's got to bounce up all these different parts to get there, and he never really hits the mark. Like, he's trying to get somewhere positive, but he goes about it in the worst possible way that is beneficial to absolutely no one. Even
especially not him.
Look, I don't like Donald Trump at all, but when I was watching the interview with him and Donald Trump, when Kanye West was finishing up his big tangent and Donald Trump looked at him, the look on his face was exactly my look. And for a moment, I actually had a oneness with Trump where I was like, yeah, man.
Yeah, what was that? Yeah, what was he talking about?
Yeah, so overall, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a split. I know we were talking about not doing that, but I'm going to say old Kanye not killing us, new Kanye, he's killing us. But yeah, hopefully, like James Brown said, hopefully he once again springs forth from the ashes as a beautiful phoenix and comes back to save us all.
All right, so I'll say he's not killing us, and I'll explain that why.
Overall.
So, I mean, Kanye was he pushed a lot of frontiers when he first came out. He really brought the woke rap into the mainstream. He really pushed these ideals of, equality and, thinking for yourself and trying to, do these really good things. And he had this amazing career and everything. And he's fallen off the past couple of years or so. He's definitely hit rock bottom. But I can't so much, as much as I disagree with it and I don't like it and I'm completely against 99.9% of everything he's talking about, the incoherencies and everything he's just rambling on about, he's sick. That's not him talking. That's the bipolar talking.
That's a good point.
He even came out after all this, the TMZ interview and everything, and that Candace Owens, is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's been the one feeding into this, and he's even came out and said that he was being manipulated, and he realizes that now, and he's going to stay out of politics.
Real quick, does anyone want to just quickly?
Yeah, we didn't hone into her enough.
Real quick.
JB,
I'm going to let you finish.
No.
I'm sorry.
I think it's important.
No. It's important. It's important to what I'm speaking on. So yeah, go ahead, James.
Candace Owens, in my opinion, was a big part of the transformation of Kanye to like a more right wing leaning person, but she is a far right leaning black Republican who spews out a lot of far-right viewpoints, appears on Fox News a lot.
And that's her day job, is she's a Fox News commentator, basically.
Yeah.
But she does, like, conferences and stuff where we've seen where she opens up for other, like, right-wing conservative pundits. And, for some reason, I don't even know how her and Kanye linked up, but they became BFFs out of nowhere. They start hanging out all the time.
A lot of this... this weird, just like slavery is a choice stuff came out with. She literally is in the background while he's saying these incoherent things, clapping like the mom, like I said, from the Nutty Professor,
like a supportive mother.
So I just noticed that they started linking up more. She was appearing in pictures more, and they were talking a lot more on Twitter around the time when Kanye started spewing a whole lot more of this stuff. So I initially just got in my head yo, this bitch is evil. Like, she's a part of Kanye, the evil transformation. It literally felt like Undercover Brother.
And then she
transformed under Eddie Griffin.
Kanye is literally sick. I mean, he's bipolar. He's been diagnosed.
And she took advantage of him. She used him for his
he's
name.
He's coming off of an opioid addiction.
Trump was trying to take advantage of him, too, I think.
She even said, like, for that whole Brexit thing that she was doing, we don't got to get all into that.
Yeah.
Look it up for yourself. But she said
She
that Kanye
artwork
had designed her artwork, and I think that was kind of where he kind of started disassociating from her a little bit.
So, back to my point, I think he's a very sick individual. He's going through a lot. He was hooked on pills. His mother died. It's all been a downward spiral the past couple of years. He's skyrocketed to fame. He's married to one of the most famous women in the entire world. Every time you turn on the news or something, his wife is in the news. He is the most focal point of attention, and it's a lot. And he was clearly being taken advantage of by these people. He even admits that he was being taken advantage of. So I can't so much as blame him as I blame the people around him letting it happen. And I think he realizes that, and with, him getting his mental health and stuff in order, and trying, like, the Sunday stuff, that sounds really positive. He's not spewing a bunch of, like, craziness. He's still Kanye.
He's trying.
But he's trying to move into a more positive light where it's not so divisive and hatred and just saying these really destructive things about his own community and his own ancestors. So I don't think he's killing us. I just think we need to give him time to heal and to get right with his health. And I think he's good for us. So I love Kanye.
I just want to do just a quick mention, y'all. I mean, I think definitely, maybe we can kind of get a little positive for a second. I mean, that's definitely kind of a conversation that he could help ignite. It's a conversation about mental health more often. Mm-hmm. And of course, you, the listener, if you are out there and you're having issues with things like that, look for help. You don't have to live with issues like that. You don't have to deal with the negative stigma that Kanye West might be attributing to you. Yeah. So, Mark, you wanna wrap this thing up?
Yeah, man. So, coming from like a place of like being a huge Kanye fan, being on board with a lot of his wild turns and a lot of his controversial things, like, I think as far as anything that we've talked about, like, talking about the good times killing us, or have they propelled society? I think, like, honestly, musically, he's definitely propelled culture multiple times. Like, he's been that guy that literally shifted the culture and the way we think about things and the way, I think he's a musical genius. I think he's got a lot of untapped, he's an artist, man. He's got a lot of stuff to work out. I think the good times are killing him, man, at the end of the day, dude. Yeah. I think, because this is all, he's taken all the blame. He's taken all the fucking, everything, every controversy. He's full on taking it in the face, full frontal, and with all the consequences he always has, and talking like about what James Brown said earlier, I found myself thinking, I don't know why, not until this moment, but what if Kanye died? What if Kanye died right now in the valley of one of his blows, right here, like. It's almost kind of a...
I wouldn't feel responsible if anything happens.
No, but it's almost kind of like, I've always thought about it as a, excuse me for maybe not being sensitive, but it's almost like a hack, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, you can be the biggest musician, you can be huge, you can be known across the world, all you have to do is die. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I feel like sometimes it's like a hack, it's definitely worth it sometimes. Some artists, like they say, we don't give people their roses until they're dead. But there's definitely some artists where I feel like you're just super blown up because you're gone, and you would have had these lows. You would have dropped from Starlight had you lived. But so if Kanye died right now, dude, it would be. I feel like that would be. I don't know. I feel like people would be like, "Fuck." It would hurt.
I think a lot of people would brush over these last.
Yeah. I think in a way. I don't think completely.
I think the good outweighs the bad with him, and he is sick. That's
I wish Kanye went. I mean, Kanye. I wish K-Town went first because I feel like a huge asshole after hearing him talk about.
No. I think we all got pretty strong.
I feel like when we talked about his life, we didn't really hone in on the mental problems like that. So that's not in the back of my head.
No.
I know it exists. Yeah. But
still, there's accountability even if you have mental issues.
Yeah, you still have to be
accountable. He's not getting himself well.
Yeah.
And he's surrounding himself with people that are attributing to him not.
Yes, men, and
also some of the things I've heard him say about mental illness have not been like the most carefully thought out, and I don't think he's doing the best even for people that have mental illness. So there's also that kind of issue too.
So I think I think
what anyone's opinion they have on Kanye is completely fair based on what's going on.
I
just have a
No,
I'm glad you offered that. I'm really glad you offered that.
So I think that I think he's done a lot for the culture. This latest version of Kanye isn't doing anything for anyone, especially himself. But he's just already if he died right now, he's a legend.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
he's already a legend.
He's already if he lives, he's already a legend. You know, so
that's the sad thing.
I think overall you have this man. What I really admire about Kanye West is that in the face of adversity, he always pushes over. When they said you couldn't be a producer, he did it. When we didn't really talk about this much, but when they said that you couldn't do fashion, when he was kind of getting blackballed
out of the fashion industry,
not taken seriously by the fashion industry, he said, "I'm going to do it." The only problem is, I mean, again, it's kind of like a Greek tragedy. That's his best trait, but also his tragic flaw in the sense that now he's looking at politics, and he thinks everyone's saying, "Hey, Kanye, you can't do politics," and he's saying, "No, watch me do it." And finally, it's just not working.
Not working. It's not working.
It works with you with art. Does not work with politics. So yeah, I think we can all agree at least this Kanye is killing us.
I think this Kanye is killing him. That was the best.
Yeah, you're right.
The best view of this, I think, is the good times of killing Kanye.
Woo! Well, actually, let's. I think that's it, y'all. This has been a great episode.
Well, JB, did you have anything you want to talk about or plug or anything that you like? I feel like we have a guest. We should be like, yo, did y'all want to talk about anything or plug something or like?
Let's do a whole nother podcast about Burger King.
We'll be back.
I forgot all about that. It would have been like another 6 weeks.
We almost made
it. No, I feel like I'll be on more podcasts, so I think it's chill. I think
friend of the show.
Yeah, I think you'll have definitely more guests where it'll be more of a one-off, so it's more essential. But because I see you so often, it's not chill. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's
fun, man. Absolutely.
It's fun having someone come into our little.
Come into Cave One,
for sure.
Cave One Studios.
Also, check us out on all the shits. We got the Facebook up, we got the YouTube up, and we're working on the probably by the time this drops, we'll probably have the SoundCloud set up. Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah. Good Times Podcast.
Good Times Podcast. Is it?
Good Times Podcast.
Yeah, but I ain't been on it in so fucking long. I'm pretty sure the Good Times are killing us.
No, we update it every day. That's why you should follow us.
Big thing, follow the YouTube, follow the Facebook page. Those are the big ones.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to be on all the shits on the Apple, on the Apple Music, on the Spotify. Yeah. But right now, we're kind of taking
Good Times Are Killing Us podcast on Instagram.
Also, this is the first time I want to do a shout out to James. You can follow his page at Dettermine. That's DETTERMEINE. It's like some weird German shit. So he's the guy that did our intro music, and we love the intro music.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, the intro music's great, and he sells music. So if you're working on a movie, a video game, whatever, go ahead and
James the plug
and do it up.
Thanks, James.
Oh wait, I'm sorry.
James.
There's one thing I want to plug, and it's not even mine.
Go ahead. No.
I want to plug my friend's Nerdum podcast because I want to start linking up my podcast friends to make a local podcast wave because I feel like everyone would just get more streams. But,
networking, baby.
VBPC.
I sometimes feature on my friend's Nerdum podcast. It's called Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks, and they deep dive on a lot of video games, anime, old TV type stuff. I would. He has literally random people up. As long as you're in the nerdy shit, I definitely could talk to him about getting you up there. But the name of it is Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. It's on Spotify and I think SoundCloud. And check it out if you're into nerdum type stuff and you're into podcasts. And I'm gonna be looking into more stuff to try to unify more of my podcast friends and make sure everyone around here is listening. Everybody's audiences are listening to each other to try to open each other's eyes to new stuff.
Alrighty, y'all. So this has been a fantastic episode. Thank you, Kanye West. Thank you, James Brown. I'm your boy, David.
K-Town, BK King.
And Marquise.
And as always, the good times are definitely fucking killing us.
We're dead. Fuck you, K-Town.